shave them to save them.
Yeah, we're here to support the endangered breeds of sheep.
Okay, so
We're both fiber artists and we're shepherds.
Okay.
And we want the world to know that there's more than one kind of wool.
Yep.
And they all have their various purposes. But these breeds need love and attention.
Okay.
We want to keep the gene pool big.
Okay, so this is a Livestock Conservancy program, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Correct.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about that.
The Livestock Conservancy is an organization that is trying to save rare breeds for their genetic potentials and the traits that they each carry. And in order to do that, you have to give the animals a job. Farmers are not going to be able to raise them if they can't make some money on it.
Gotta have purpose.
It needs, they need a purpose. It can't be just a hobby if you're going to get these animals in large enough numbers. And one of the things that many sheep are known for is having the dual purpose of both meat and wool. Unfortunately, for many of the breeds, the wool had not been recognized as having value. And this program, the idea behind it is that the Livestock Conservancy can encourage fiber artists to use wools that are different from the average merino that most people are used to using, that have different qualities for different types of items. And encourage the shepherds to produce wool that fiber artists are going to want in a way that fiber artists are going to want it.
So is everybody wearing something from their Shave 'em to Save 'em?
Yes.
Yes.
Claim?
Yes.
Wool on my hat.
Okay, that does not look like a Jacob to me.
Then it's Jacob.
It is.
Okay,
This is felt made with Romeldale CBM wool from my own flock.
you made that?
Yeah.
How do I buy that? That's beautiful.
Isn't it gorgeous?
Oh my gosh.
And this is Tunis and Tunis. American
Tunis and Tunis?
This is Romeldale CBM. The two dyed are Clun Forest, and the gray in the back is Romeldale CBM.
Okay, so that's all yours, or that's from other flocks
The
too?
Romeldale is all mine. The Clun Forest I purchased from one of the other fiber
Okay,
providers.
beautiful.
And this is all CBM that I purchased from someone else and then I naturally dyed it.
Beautiful colors too. Love those colors.
And this has 7 different breeds represented.
You're just showing off now. So this program that you have, I mean, there's an incredible variety just standing here in front of me.
right.
And different breeds and different things that you can do and different things, that color patterns. All of those things are really a sort of a demonstration of the whole concept altogether, is it not?
Well, and one of my favorite parts about it as a shepherd, but also as a knitter, is getting to know each other, right? The shepherds and the fiber artists kind of getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping get a better understanding of each other. Like, I know at one point when the program first started, there were artists who were frustrated that various fibers were not available or yarns weren't available. Well, we hadn't sheared yet, and so it was just kind of getting that understanding of the process of how wool is produced.
Right. That there's a timeline, and it's not 15 minutes.
No,
Yes.
no. And even once you send it to the mill, it can take a year to get back as yarn. So it's so I've kind of enjoyed that part of it a lot, getting to know. And for me as a shepherd, learning what they want. As far as how
It's understanding that there's different languages. There's the shepherd language, and there's the fiber artist language, and then there's normal everyday language.
Right.
The three are not the same. You commonly use the same word, and it means totally different things. And not all of the shepherds, especially, understood the fiber artist language. And fiber artists, I think, can't figure out why or how you can raise animals that have wool and not understand what is staple length, what is micron count, what is handle, what is that. I mean, you're dealing with these every day. How can you not know what that means, And yet, many of the shepherds have no clue what that means.
That's true.
because a lot of them are dual-purpose breeds.
Right, and
So
they're
some
raising them
people are
primarily
raising
for
them
meat.
Or some people, like Jacobs, some people, well, I'm Romeldale's too, some people will raise them for meat, and some people will raise them for wool.
Yep.
And I think for me, it was so that people understood me charging $25 for a skein of yarn is still not paying for all my hay.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's hard when you're competing against
Walmart
China, you know. And,
and Walmart.
But you're not really, in a way, are you?
well, yes and no. I mean, because people have this understanding of what yarn should cost.
Right.
And,
You know, and
that's hard.
even at a festival like this, a lot of the independent dyers that are presenting stuff, it's basically made in China,
Yes.
and they're buying those yarns and then dyeing them. So they're doing a lot of added value, and it's a bit more expensive than you would buy at a normal, you know, yarn type thing, but not what we need to charge just to cover our costs. What they don't understand is what the cost of coverage is for making a skein of yarn. Don't count worrying about feeding or taking care of the animals or anything. Just what does it take to take a fleece that's laying here, send it to a mill, and come back with yarn? That cost, at least in my farm, has continually been at least $14 per 4-ounce skein, at least.
And so I think one of the benefits also of supporting us as small shepherds is that we are sending our wool to local small fiber mills. And so that's another value added, you know, part of it is it's not getting sent to a commercial, which wouldn't handle our fleeces, frankly.
So,
And so that's also another part of it is it's a slow fashion, right?
fashion, right.
And that's kind of also an important thing that we do as a community is support other small.
so it's in my, at least the little that I know about it, is very much a reflection of the same concept that's happened in everything in agriculture. It used to be small farms, local
Right.
processing, eat kind of locally,
Yep.
realize the cost locally, there was an attachment and a connection.
Yep.
And so now the fiber mills are going through the same concept, are they not? The
absolutely.
wool is processed somewhere
Yep.
in Australia or wherever, goes to China for
Yep.
maybe I don't know what happens with wool. To be honest, it's still a little mystery to me. I'm going to go visit that site a little later. But you know, it has to be processed and dyed, and then it comes back to the person that actually wants to use it. So it's dying in some ways in the same way that the small farmer has died, and maybe getting a little resurgence now.
Yeah, and I think it's programs like this that allow for the development of the relationships that people begin to understand what the value is. And unlike farm to table, where you can really know the person, you know, the farmer that's raising it or your customer, it's a little bit harder in the fiber community in that, you know, there's not that many people that live near me that want all my fleece. And so my community has to be much larger. And programs like this allow for that growth to happen. So.
And the life cycle is much, much longer for wool than it is for vegetables, for instance. You know, the life cycle is one growing season, 3-4 months between the time the seed's planted and somebody's eating in a restaurant. And with sheep,
We get one harvest a year.
we get one harvest a year, and then it may take another year to get it processed.
I was thinking of my chickens and the egg, and the first time you get an egg or the first time you drop an egg, it's this horror in a completely different scale from the value of the actual egg because you knew what went into it. And so it kills you because that egg was the sum of many different processes. And I'm assuming if you grow your own wool and you raise your own sheep, that bit of fiber is the representation of years of work, and that's before you ever get to the knitting part.
And that's where it becomes critical to have skilled shearers.
Yes.
Because we get one shot at getting the fiber off of our sheep. And in some breeds, you're talking about a limited length of wool. And so you need a shearer who is good at handling your sheep kindly and can do their shearing with great skill to get as much of that wool off of that sheep as possible
in one piece,
to keep it usable for those of us who are having product made or for us sending to hand spinners to use as well.
So there's multiple problems here if I understand it. One is you have to have the shearer, it's the difference between the oncologist, the nephrologist, and the internal guy, right? You have to have not only a guy that's willing to come out 2 o'clock in the morning, but you have to have a guy that might know the difference between a Romdale and am I saying that correctly? A Romdale? Romdale and a Cotswold, and their how to shear it and what the staple length is,
That's correct.
and how to handle the behavior.
It can change the comb that they use on their shearer.
Yeah.
It can change the way that they do their shearing.
The order.
When when they understand that you may be selling some of these to hand spinners, it again may change their technique. When you've got a skilled shearer, they're able to adapt that from breed to breed and from use to use as well.
And there are some very, very talented shearers out there, but we need more.
We need more.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you just a quick question, because you all are very obviously connected to the garments you're wearing, and you should, because they take a lot of time. There's a lot of attention there. We talked to Margaret Thompson up in Salt Spring Island, and she was wearing this gorgeous chunky sweater that obviously had a lot of love and years in it. And it reminded me of my mother and my grandmother knitting and the process by which they go to. And I reflected on the fact that there is a world of emotion and emotional responses that are somehow this connection that's woven into the wool. And I don't know if it's because you knit and you think, but it's a very intimate thing. I put on that sweater and I think of my mother. I put on that sweater and I think of my grandmother. And it's more than a texture or a fiber thing. It is an emotional response that is really kind of indescribable. Would you say that all of you have that same process? There is the emotional component that goes into the garment that just does something bigger than the sum of its parts.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that I find is that we're a culture that in a lot of ways we're not even preparing our own food. Right. So I think it comes back down to a tactile response. We're not creating our own food to eat on a daily basis. We're not creating our own clothing. We don't have a need for that, right? We can buy clothing wherever. We're not having to make something to wear on our on our feet as shoes. We're not having to fix our own cars. We're in a lot of ways, maybe we don't even have pets that we're taking care of. So when you stop having this human need to use your hands to create something, I think once you reconnect to that, whether it's that you're wearing something that someone made for you or whether that's something you're doing yourself, I think all of a sudden you feel reconnected.
So would you also say maybe in this throwaway society, if you have people that begin to make products themselves, all of a sudden everything has meaning?
Absolutely.
Right? Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
And I also want to add too that I hear a lot of people who want to know what's the point of preserving endangered breeds? Like if we have improved breeds, there's a reason why you have all these commercial breeds, right? Why is everything merino? And I think what's an important, just practical answer to that is biosecurity for our nation, as far as our food sources go, and as far as, I mean, like I have Jacobs, and Jacobs sheep, it turns out, are the only other animal in the world that have the Tay-Sachs gene. And so Tay-Sachs is a genetic illness that is very rare and very serious and often fatal. And so to have this animal that also has that gene, so that they are able to do genetic therapies and that kind of thing, like it's more than just this is a cool wool or this is a pretty animal. I mean, there is a very practical need to preserve the genetics. I mean, a merino, it started out as other breeds. So if you don't have those parent breeds left, if a disease strikes the merinos, what are you going to do? How are you going to make that breed again? Or, the Holsteins, or, any of those other breeds.
We should make a film on that.
What's that?
We should make a film on that.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's for me, that's also part of it. My parents are scientists, so I kind of come at it from that standpoint.
Well, thank you ladies so much. I so much appreciate you talking with us. Oh, you know what? I'm drooling at everybody's.
I'm love what you guys are
doing. Are you? Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Yeah, it's a sort of I'm Alara. Hi. Hi, thank you for talking with us.